Today, we're going to understand something gently, without judgment, without labels like lazy, weak, or undisciplined. We're going to understand why you always quit. Not from the outside, but from the inside. Because quitting is rarely about effort. It's rarely about intelligence, and it's almost never about willpower. Most of the time, quitting is psychological. It's emotional. It's protective.
And if you've ever started something with excitement, only to slowly lose energy, avoid it, and then quietly walk away, there is a reason. Not a flaw, a reason. When people say, "I always quit," they usually say it with shame, as if something is wrong with their character. They watch others stay consistent, finish degrees, build careers, stick to routines, and they wonder why they can't seem to do the same. So they assume the simplest explanation: I'm just not disciplined.
But the human mind is never that simple. Behavior always has a history. Every habit, even quitting, is learned somewhere. Let's slow this down and look at it carefully. Quitting is not the problem. Quitting is a response. And every response is trying to protect you from something. Psychologically, when you start something new, your brain doesn't just see opportunity. It also scans for danger, failure, rejection, embarrassment, disappointment, loss of control. For some people, these fears are small background noises. For others, they're loud, very loud, so loud that the nervous system quietly decides it's safer to leave. And that decision often happens long before you consciously choose to quit. Many people who quit are not careless people. They are sensitive people, highly aware, highly self-critical, deep thinkers, overthinkers, people who imagine every possible outcome, especially the negative ones.
And when you live like that, starting something doesn't feel exciting. It feels risky, heavy, like you're stepping onto thin ice. Even small tasks start to feel emotionally expensive. There's also conditioning. If you grew up in an environment where mistakes were punished, where love was connected to performance, where failure meant shame, your brain learned something very early. It learned that trying is dangerous, because trying means you might fail.
And failing might mean rejection. So your mind develops a quiet survival rule. If I don't fully commit, if I leave early, if I quit first, I can avoid that pain. It sounds irrational on the surface, but emotionally, it makes perfect sense. Quitting becomes protection. This is why some people feel enthusiastic at the beginning. The idea stage is safe. Planning is safe. Imagining success is safe. But action, real action, exposes you. Now people can judge. Now you can fail publicly. Now the outcome is uncertain. So the closer you get to reality, the more your anxiety rises. And slowly, your energy disappears. Not because you don't care, but because your system is overwhelmed. There's another layer too: perfectionism, a quiet, exhausting form of self-pressure. If your mind believes, if I can't do this perfectly, it's not worth doing, then every task feels impossible. Because nothing in life starts perfect. Everything starts messy.
Learning is awkward. Growth is clumsy. Progress is slow. But perfectionism doesn't tolerate that. So instead of being a beginner, you withdraw. Instead of practicing, you quit. Because quitting feels less painful than feeling inadequate every day. Over time, this creates a painful pattern. You start something, you feel hopeful. Then doubt creeps in. You compare yourself to others. You notice your flaws. You feel behind. Your chest feels tight. Your thoughts get louder.
I'm not good enough. This isn't for me. Other people are better. Why even try? And eventually, you quietly stop. Not dramatically, not loudly, just silently, like fading away. And afterward, there's guilt, heavy guilt, which only reinforces the belief that something is wrong with you. But here's the part we often miss. Chronic quitting is rarely laziness, it's emotional fatigue. It's the nervous system saying, I can't handle more pressure.
Some people don't quit because they don't care. They quit because they care too much. They feel everything too deeply. Every setback feels personal. Every delay feels like proof of inadequacy. So their mind escapes to protect their self-worth. There's also the issue of identity. If deep down you carry the belief, I'm the kind of person who never finishes things, your brain will unconsciously act to confirm that belief.
Not because it wants you to fail, but because the brain prefers familiarity. Even painful familiarity feels safer than unknown success. So you repeat the pattern again and again until it feels like fate. But it's not fate, it's conditioning. The inner conflict is exhausting. Part of you wants to grow. Part of you wants safety. Part of you dreams big. Part of you whispers, don't risk it. So you live in between, starting, stopping, starting, stopping.
Feeling like you're constantly disappointing yourself. And this creates a quiet loneliness, because it's hard to explain to others. From the outside, it looks simple. Just stick to it. But inside, it's a battle between fear and hope every single day. The turning point doesn't come from forcing yourself harder. It rarely comes from harsh discipline or self-criticism. Shame doesn't create consistency. It creates avoidance. Real change begins with understanding, with compassion,
With realizing my mind isn't broken, it's trying to protect me. That realization softens something, because when you stop fighting yourself, you can finally listen. You begin to ask different questions. Not, why am I so lazy, but what am I afraid of here? Not, what's wrong with me, but what am I trying to protect myself from? Sometimes the answer is fear of failure. Sometimes it's fear of judgment. Sometimes it's exhaustion.
Sometimes it's simply that you never learned how to tolerate being imperfect. And once you see the real reason, quitting stops feeling mysterious. It becomes understandable. Awareness changes the relationship. Instead of quitting automatically, you start noticing the moment before you quit. The hesitation, the tension, the urge to escape. And you sit with it just a little longer. You don't force yourself aggressively. You gently stay. You allow yourself to be bad at something, to be slow, to be average, to be human. And strangely, that softness builds more consistency than pressure ever did. Because emotional safety creates persistence. When you know you're allowed to fail, you don't need to run away. When mistakes don't threaten your worth, you can keep going. When you treat yourself like an ally instead of an enemy, effort feels lighter. So maybe the goal isn't to never quit.
Maybe it's to understand why you want to quit and respond with kindness instead of shame. Maybe it's to take smaller steps, to lower the pressure, to stop demanding perfection, to build trust with yourself slowly, quietly, like teaching a scared part of you that it's safe now. And over time, something subtle changes. You don't become fearless. You don't become endlessly motivated. You simply become steadier, more patient, more forgiving. You start finishing small things, then slightly bigger things. Not because you forced yourself, but because you stopped running from yourself. So if you've always believed you're someone who quits, maybe you're not a quitter at all. Maybe you're just someone who learned to survive by leaving. And now, you're learning that you don't have to leave anymore. You can stay. Breathe, move slowly, and continue. Not perfectly, just honestly. And sometimes, that's more than enough.